Hello friends, welcome back to day 3 of understanding place value. Today we are going to be working on pages 13 and 14 in our iReady math book, the orange textbook you picked up at supply pickup. So we're going to start with number 1, and the problem is Emma wrote 36,042 as 3,642. Explain what she did wrong, then write the number correctly. So the number she is trying to write is 36,042. The number she did write is 3,642. Now just from hearing me read it, you can tell there's a difference, so obviously she did something wrong. So what we're going to do first is we're going to set up our place value chart. So we're going to have our ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and 10,000s. So this is our ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s. So the number we need is underlined, so we're going to start there. So we have 36,042. So there's a 2 in the ones place, and because it's 42, we know that there's a 4 in the tens, but then there's a problem. We go from tens to thousands, so that means there's nothing in the hundreds, so we can already see by using our place value chart that Emma forgot to put a placeholder here, so there isn't any hundreds, but she did not do it that way in her number that she wrote. So this needs to have a placeholder because in the number 36,042, there is no hundreds. And then if we keep going, there's 6,000, so there's a 6 in the thousands place. And it's 36,000, so that means there's 30 or 3 tens in the thousands place. So we can already see a difference between these two numbers. So what we can say is we know to copy the number right from our, sorry, I just messed up where my comma goes. Miss Dion's a little tired right now. The comma actually goes here, not here. That's kind of annoying. So we have 36,042. And then what we said before for our reasoning was that Emma forgot to put a 0 as a placeholder in the hundreds place. So that's how she got this number, but our correct answer is here. And again, ignore that scribble, that's a mess up on my end. So it should have read like this to match the word form that they gave us in the problem. So moving on, number 2 is saying, suppose you have hundreds, tens, and ones blocks. So I'm going to underline that because the only thing they're giving us. What are 2 different ways you can make the number 1,718? So say we don't have anything to do with thousands. All we have is hundreds, tens, and ones place value blocks, and we need to show this number. So to help us, I'm just going to first write this as it would show up in our place value chart, so it's easier to think of it as in place value blocks. So to start, we know that if we were just to do it the easiest way we know, we would have 8 ones and then we'd have 1 10 rod. But then we need to combine this 1,000 and this 700s, and we're just going to call that 1700s because we know that it's 10 hundreds in 1,000, and 10 plus 7 is 17. So I'm going to call it option A, could be 1700s, 110, and 8 ones. But we're not done because this problem is asking for 2 different ways. So option B, what we can do is we can keep the 1700s because we can't really do much else with that. The biggest value we have is the hundreds block, so we can't do much more. But we can combine these two. So we know 110 is obviously equal to 10 ones cubes, just like we transferred the thousands to the hundreds blocks. So we can add 10 to 8 to give us 18 of the ones cubes. So we have 2 different ways of showing this number, so we know we answered all parts of the question. Okay, so number 3, it gets a little tricky. Again, there's 2 different questions to answer here, so we need to make sure we are paying attention. So first thing is to write the number 55,555 in expanded form. And then we have to answer the question, how does the value of each 5 compare to the value of the 5 to its right? So first things first, we need to answer part 1, and then we will answer part 2. So to write 55,555 in expanded form, it may be easier to make our place value chart for this now that I'm looking at it. So again, we have our ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and 10,000. So ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and then we have our 10,000s. And obviously, every box is going to get a 5 because for this one, the number is just a bunch of 5s. So to make this an expanded form, remember, expanded form is when we break apart each place value by their value. So for the 10,000, we're going to keep our 5, and then however many places to the right, we're going to add a 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means we are going to give this 5 4 zeros, meaning we have 50,000. Then expanded form, we add our numbers together, so we're going to put a plus sign. Then for the thousands, again, we keep our 5. I know it seems a little confusing since everything's a 5, so just try to stick along with me. So then we're going to do a 0 for every place value to the right again. So 1, 2, 3. This number gets 3 zeros, so we have 5,000. Plus sign in the middle to separate our values. Okay, then the hundreds. 2 zeros, so we're going to add 2 zeros. You should start noticing a pattern as we work down the place value chart. So then the tens, we have a 5 with 1 place value to its right, so we get 1 0. And then we have 5 ones. There's nothing to the right, so it just stays 5. So now, if we look here, let's just look at the difference from our tens place to our ones. So this is our tens. Put that in parentheses, and this is our ones. So if we're just looking at these, now we're trying to answer part 2. So all of this was part 1. You don't need to do this. I'm just doing this so you can see the parts we're answering. And then for part 2, we can do over here. So if we're looking at the 50 and the 5, we need to figure out how the value compares from the 5 in the tens to the 5 in the 1. So if we look at the 5 in the ones, we know we only have 5 ones cubes. And then if we look at the value in the tens, we have 50, or we have 5 tens rods. So if we need to get from 5 to 50, we can multiply. So we have to think 5 times what, I'm putting a question mark because we don't know, gives us 50. And because we know our multiplication facts and all the rules of multiplication, we know that 5 times 10 gives us 50. So that means that every value of a 5 is 10 times more than the 5 to its right. So to answer part 2 of this question, the value of each 5 is 10 times the value of the 5 to its right. And we did a problem very similar to this on Monday. Okay, so looking now at page 14, if we look at number 4, this is honestly a cool activity you can do with the place value cards that you have in your distance learning folder too. So once we do number 4 together, it might be a fun game for you to play with someone at home to get that extra practice with your place value cards and seeing who can get the biggest and smallest number. So we are playing a game that includes these cards. We have a 1, a 5, a 2, 7, 0, 4, 8, and 6. We need to choose 6, and we need to circle the ones we choose. So I'm going to choose, and I want you to choose the same ones as me for this. We're going to choose 1, 5, 2, 0, 4, 6. So we chose our 6 cards, and now for the first part, we need to make the greatest number possible using each card once. So that means we're going to have 6 digits in this number, and we need to make the greatest possible number. So to do that, we're going to pick the largest number first and then work our way down to the smallest. So the largest number card that we picked was 6, so we're going to start with a 6. And then the next largest was a 5. And then a 4, a 2, a 1, and then finally a 0. So the biggest number we can make is 654,210. So we have it in standard form, that's the first part, but then we have to put it into expanded form. Now remember, to do this, we keep the number we're working with, and then every place value to the right, we add a 0. So to start off, we have a 6, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 place values to the right. So we're going to add 5 zeros. So we have 600,000 plus, now we're going to move on to the 5, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 place values after it, so the 5 gets 4 zeros. And then we go to the 4, we're just working down the number. There's 1, 2, 3 place values after the 4, so we have 4,000 plus the 2, and then there's 1, 2 place values to the right. And then the 1 has 1 place value. And then obviously we have 0, 1, so we're just going to add a 0. So before we do the second part together, I want you to pause, and I want you to follow the same strategy we followed here to make the least number possible using the same 6 cards, but because we have a 0, we cannot use it as the first digit. So our first digit cannot be 0, so it gets a little trickier here. But you need to start with the lowest number and then work your way up. So pause and then make your attempt, and then we will go over it together. So now that you're back, let's get started. So other than the 0, the next lowest number we have is a 1. And then now we can put that 0 in because it just can't be the first digit, but we want it somewhere up front so it keeps it the smallest number possible. The next smallest is our 2, and then our 4, 5, 6. So the smallest number we can get with our 6 cards is 102,456. And then the same strategy to get it into expanded form. We're going to keep our first number and then however many zeros. So this one has 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Plus 0 in the 10,000s place. We can just keep it a 0 just so we know we counted it. And then we have a 2 with 1, 2, 3 zeros to its right. And then we have a 4 with 2 place values, so we get 2 zeros. And then we have our 5 with 1 place value to its right. And then we're left over with a 6 in our ones place. So this is the greatest number you can create in its expanded form, and then the smallest number you can create in its expanded form. So now that we completed part A, we can go and look at part B. So look at the standard form of your answers to part A. Circle a digit you used in both numbers. And then the answer is, the question is, did the value change between the two numbers, and explain? So, obviously every number is going to match up somewhere because we use the same 6 cards in both examples. But just for an example, we're going to go and circle our ones. We noticed that the ones were in 2 completely different places in these 2 numbers. So, obviously, if we have a 1 in the tens here and a 1 in the 100,000s here, this one is talking about 100,000s and this one's talking about 10. So obviously the value changed dramatically. So the value of the 1 changed. It has a value of 10. In the greatest number and a value of 100,000 in the smallest number. Now, if that is a little confusing for you, I am on the Google Meet to help with any questions on any of these. But now that we have worked through 1 and 4 together, I want you to go and choose a 6-digit number and write that number in the standard form, expanded form, and word form, and you can choose any of the cards from the top of this page. You don't need to choose the same ones that we did for number 4. You can pick new numbers, and then once you have your standard form, expanded form, and word form for that number, I want you to log back into the Google Meet and show me. That way I can check it off that you have completed the workbook pages for today. And then I will be giving you the next assignment. It is a Google Classroom assignment. You need to go on and complete an independent practice. It is a Google Doc, so you can type in the answers as you work, and then you are pressing turn in when you are done. So before you check out Google Classroom, make sure you show me the answer to number 5 on Google Meet, and then you can move on to your independent work. Again, if you have any questions, I am on the Google Meet, and I'll be more than happy to work through any of these again with you. I'll see you soon.